Special Penal Laws Reviewer and Suggested Answers. Disclaimer: suggested answers are only based on the knowledge of laws and jurisprudence of the uploader. Please check to yourself if the answers given herein are correct. Any criticism in the answers are much appreciated. There are some problems about definition have not answered due to time constraint. Please comment any reactions in this humble work. 1. Paul is a member of the Omega Pin Fraternity or OPF. In one of the group's initiation rites, Paul was busy walking around the premises while having a good chat with Sam, a passerby. Then Paul heard the painful loud cry of one Allan, a neophyte in the fraternity, while the latter was being initiated by Brandon with a wooden paddle. Later on, Paul saw Allan collapsed. Allan was brought to the hospital, but did not survive due to multiple organ failure caused by severe internal bleeding. Paul and the rest of the fraternity members were charged with violation of Republic Act 11,053 or the Hazing Act of 2018. For his defense, Paul claimed that he did not take part in the commission of hazing, hence, not liable. Is Paul correct? 4%. Suggested answer: no, Paul is not correct. One of the paragraphs of Section 17 of Republic Act 11,053, Anti-Hazing Act of 2018, provides that any person even not a member of the fraternity who is present during the hazing is liable unless said person prevented the execution of hazing or that he or she immediately reported the same in the police or any public officers if there is no issue of safety to his, her person or that of his, her family is involved in reporting the same. In this case, although Paul, a member of OPF fraternity, is only a passing by, but his presence in the initiation rite of hazing is a prima facie evidence that he is involved or participated in said hazing unless he caused to stop the hazing committed to the victim or reported the incident immediately to the police authorities concerned. Thus, in accordance with Republic Act 11,053, Paul may be held liable to the said law. 2. Suppose in the immediately preceding problem, number 1, for his part, Brandon argued that he is entitled to mitigating circumstance since he had no intention to commit so grave a wrong. Is Brandon correct? 4%. Suggested answer: no, the contention of Brandon is devoid of merit. Republic Act 11,053 or the Anti-Hazing Act of 2018 is a malum prohibitum. The Article 11 of the Revised Penal Code is not applicable in a special penal law which is malum prohibitum, just like Republic Act 11,053 or the Anti-Hazing Act of 2018. The contention of Brandon that he had no intention to commit so grave a wrong has no bearing in the case of Republic Act 11,053 since the same is malum prohibitum in such mitigating circumstances cannot in any way reduce the penalty provided by Republic Act 11,053. 3. Valentino is the owner of a Ferrari sports car. While driving towards Claveria for a quick chill together with his girlfriend Dion, a riding in tandem on board a Ducati superbike overtook them. While Valentino was maneuvering a curve, the armed riding in tandem flagged them down and pointed towards them a highly powered Bushmaster rifle. In shock and fear, Valentino was not able to put up a defense, hence, the armed men took away the former sports car. Before leaving the area, to add insult to injury, the armed men raped Dion in the presence of Valentino. Identify the crime or crimes committed by the armed men, if any. 4%. Suggested answer: the crimes committed by the armed men are separate crimes of kidnapping punishable in Republic Act 10,883 and rape punishable in Revised Penal Code. There is kidnapping when a motor vehicle is taken, with intent to gain, and which belong to another, and without the latter's consent, or is taken by means of violence against or intimidation of any person or force upon things. There is, carnal, rape when a man having a carnal knowledge with a woman against the latter's consent. Although an RA 10883 provides the special complex crime of kidnapping with rape, the same is true only when the victim of the crime of rape is the driver or owner of the vehicle stolen, but in this case, the victim is Dion, girlfriend of Valentino, which is only a passenger thereby. Therefore there are two offenses committed by the armed men in this case: kidnapping of the vehicle of Valentino, and the rape of Dion. 4. What are the essential elements of kidnapping under Republic Act 10,883 or the new Anti-Kidnapping Act of 2016? 4%. Suggested answer. The essential elements of carnapping under Republic Act 10,883 or the new Anti-Carnapping Act of 2016 are the following: that there is a taking of a motor vehicle, that the taking is with intent to gain, that the taking is committed by another person to the motor vehicle belonging to another, without the latter's consent, or by means of violence against or intimidation of any person or force upon things, that the taking is unlawful. 5. Tony registered his private car to Uber Car Incorporated, a mobility service provider company with operations in various cities in the country, so that Tony can avail of their services such as ride-hailing, food delivery, among others. One night, while at the J.C. Aquino Street with passenger Mia at the front seat, Tony advanced uninvited sexual actions towards Mia on the pretext of making friends. According to him, he wanted to enjoy the ride within the privacy of his car, so he can avoid falling asleep while driving. Mia insisted that he can be held liable for making such advances. Is Tony liable under Republic Act 11,313 or the Safe Spaces Act? Explain. 4%. Suggested answer. Yes. Tony is liable under Republic Act 11,313 or the Safe Spaces Act. Republic Act 11,313 provides punishment for any gender-based sexual abuse committed in a public utility vehicle, and such Uber Car Incorporated is included in the coverage of the said law. The acts of Tony are punishable in Republic Act 11,313, which punished the gender-based sexual abuses committed in the public place and public utility vehicle. Such pretext of Tony of making friends can cause invasion to the sense of personal space and personal safety of Mia. Thus, Tony is liable for gender-based sexual abuse committed in a public utility vehicle. 6. Explain when gender-based streets, public spaces, and online sexual harassment is considered qualified, hence, the penalty next higher in degree will be applied, as provided for under Republic Act 11,313 or the Safe Spaces Act? 4%. Suggested answer. Gender-based streets, public spaces, and online sexual harassment is considered qualified when it is committed in public utility vehicle. It is committed by AFP, plug-and-play and other public officers. The above instances or circumstance makes the crime qualified, hence the penalty next higher in degree will be applied, as provided for under Republic Act 11,313 or the Safe Spaces Act. The essence of the provision is that the law punish the invasion of one's personal space and one's personal safety, and when it is committed in the public vehicle, the impact or the effect of emotional distress is tremendous, thus the law provides a stiffer penalty of such. As to when the offense is committed by AFP, plug-and-play and other public officers, the same is also qualified because instead said public officers is the guardian of the personal space and personal safety of every persons, yet they are the one who violated the same, thus the law provides a firmer penalty when the same is committed by AFP, plug-and-play and other public officers. 7. Chan, a discontented employee of a big tuna company in General Santos City, joined the stoppage of work organized by the company's union in order to compel the management to give the employees their long overdue pandemic benefits. During the activity, all union members followed the minimum health protocol as mandated by the local ordinance. In the middle of the activity, Chan shouted, "We will burn down the factory of this company if you will not pay us." Is Chan liable under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020? Explain. 4%. Suggested answer. It is respectfully submitted that Chan is not liable under Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. Republic Act 11,479 substantially provides that any protest, concerted action, industrial stoppage of work, the exercise of civil and political rights which does not cause or intended to cause death or serious bodily injury to any persons or makes serious impact to public safety is not an act of terrorism. And that in Section 4, of Republic Act 11,479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, it provides that one of the acts of terrorism is the release of dangerous substances, or causing fire, flood or explosion. But, the shouting of Chan is not per se including as an act of terrorism, as provided in the above provision because the essence of terrorism is the spread of fear in order to coerce the government or to intimidate the general public or the segment thereof. Said shouting of Chan is only committed in the hate of anger, without any intention to spread fear in order to coerce the government nor to intimidate the general public or the segment thereof. In every criminal case, the presumption of innocence is doctrine which is of paramount importance. And that the act of shouting, does not in any sense connected to an act of terrorism per se, without the other elements of the crime of terrorism. Thus, Chan is not liable to Republic Act 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. 8. Explain how terrorism is committed under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. 4%. Suggested answer. Terrorism under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 is committed by any person within or outside in the Philippines by, engages any act which causes death or serious bodily injuries of any person or endangers person's life, engages in any act which causes destruction and damage to the government facilities, public places and private properties, engages in any act which causes interference and destruction to any of the vital facilities, acquires, possess, buys, supplies, transports, makes or the like any weapons, biological, radiological and chemical weapons, releases dangerous substance, causing fire, flood and explosion. Provided that said acts are intended to intimidate the general population or segment thereof or create an atmosphere or message of fear in order to coerce the government for their unlawful demand. 9. Connie went to the bank to deposit the amount of 499,999.90 pesos to the account of one Brandon. The next day, Connie went to the bank again to transact the same amount to one Brandon. This time, the bank inquired on the source of fund, however, Connie was not able to provide justification. Instead, she said her auntie asked her to deposit the money to Brandon. Upon the bank's enhanced due diligence, it turned out that Brandon is related to a flagged group involved in a number of unlawful activity. Is Connie's transaction a covered transaction or, and suspicious transaction pursuant to Republic Act 9160 or the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001, as amended? Explain. 4%. Suggested answer. Yes, the transaction of Connie is a covered transaction or, and suspicious transaction. Under Republic Act 9160, as amended, or the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001, the following are suspicious transactions, thus transaction which has no legal or trade obligation, purpose or economic justification. The client is unidentified. The amount covered is not commensurate with respect to the business and lawful income or salary of the client. That the transaction is designed or structured in order to evade the reporting requirements. Also, Republic Act 9160 as amended provides that deposits which involved in excess of 500,000 pesos must be reported to the Anti-Money Laundering Council, AMLC. Thus the transaction of Connie is covered transaction because her deposit exceed 500,000 pesos requirements. And that the transaction of Connie is suspicious because the same is designed or structured in order to evade the reporting requirements. 10. Suppose in the immediately preceding problem, number 9, Connie learned that the bank submitted covered transaction and suspicious transaction reports to the Anti-Money Laundering Council, AMLC. Thus, she told the bank manager that Brandon's banking rights were being violated by the bank pursuant to Republic Act 1405 or the Bank Secrecy Law as amended, and Republic Act 8791 or the General Banking Law, as amended. Is Connie correct? Explain. 4%. Suggested answer. No, the argument of Connie does not hold water. Republic Act 9160 as amended provides an exception to the depositor's secrecy rights as provided in Republic Act 1405 or the Bank Secrecy Law as amended, and Republic Act 8791 or the General Banking Law, as amended. Thus, notwithstanding with Republic Act 8791 and Republic Act 1405, AMLC has the power to check, verify and freeze the account of Brandon. 11. Suppose in the same problem, number 9, after due investigation by the Anti-Money Laundering Council, AMLC, on the reports submitted by the bank, it turned out that Brandon is the ultimate beneficial owner, UBO, of several bank accounts closely linked to a big terror group. In view thereof, the Senate wanted to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation regarding the person of Brandon and his source of wealth. The Senate invited the AMLC Executive Director Attorney, Mr. as a resource person to the inquiry. However, the latter politely declined the invitation pursuant to the relevant provisions of Republic Act 9160 or the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001, as amended, and other applicable laws. Can attorney Mr. validly decline the invitation? Explain. 4%. Suggested answer. It is submitted that attorney Mr. the AMLC Executive Director cannot decline the invitation. The provision of Republic Act 9160 which pertains to the secrecy of the case handled by AMLC is not violated when attorney Mr. will answer the investigation of the Senate in order to aid the same in making new laws to further strengthen anti-money laundering laws existing in our jurisdictions. However, it is submitted that attorney Mr. will not divulge the identity of the suspect in the case, but attorney Mr. may tell the Senate to the extent of the way in which the said suspect made deposits to the bank in order to launder the dirty money. 12. Explain how money laundering is committed under Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001, as amended. 4%. Suggested answer. As provided in Republic Act 9160 as amended, money laundering is committed by any person who transacts money instruments or properties which are coming, involving, representing or connecting to any unlawful activities or illegal sources in order to make them appear to have come from a legitimate and lawful source. 13. Briefly define or explain the following as provided for under Republic Act 10173 or the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Right to information, 1%, suggested answer. Right to information is a constitutional right of every person as enshrined in the Bill of Rights to any transaction, contracts, projects, business, and documents of the government which are not confidential in nature. Right to data portability, 1%, suggested answer. Right to data portability refers to the right of the people to have an immediate access of the data which is not confidential in nature. 14. Briefly define or explain the following as provided for under Republic Act 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. Extraordinary rendition, 1%. Designated person, 1%. Suggested answer. Designated person refers to the terrorist designated person made by the Anti-Terrorist Council. 15. Briefly define or explain the following as provided for under Republic Act 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Cybercrime, 1%. Suggested answer. Cybercrime refers to the offense which is committed through the medium of information communication technology or ICT such as computers, cell phones and other devices. Cybersecurity, 1%. Suggested answer. Cybersecurity refers to the actions, software or any manner which provides securities of every users in ICT for unwanted cyber attacks and cyber-related crimes. 16. Under Republic Act 11332 or the Mandatory Reporting of Notifiable Diseases and Health Events of Public Health Concern Act - State at least 3 prohibited acts under Section 9 thereof. 1%. Is disclosure of confidential information a prohibited act, hence, a violation of Republic Act 11332? 1%. 17. Under Republic Act 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, as amended - What is receiving gift? 1%. What is the prescriptive period of all offenses punishable under Republic Act 3019, as amended? 1%. Suggested answer. The prescriptive period of all offenses punishable under Republic Act 3019, as amended is 20 years commencing from the crime is committed or discovered by public authorities. 18. Under Republic Act 10168 or the Terrorism Financing Prevention and Suppression Act of 2012 - What is terrorism financing? 1%. Suggested answer. There is terrorism financing when a person finances a person or group or organization which is in any manner linked to a terrorist organization or terrorist organization itself. When is there a conspiracy to commit terrorism financing? 1%. Suggested answer. There is conspiracy to commit terrorism finance when a person induced another to finance terrorist and the other person agreed. Set A-B questions. 1. Choppy went to Wing Wing Grocery for his weekend shopping assignment. After collecting all items needed as listed by his wife, Choppy proceeded to the counter for payment. He handed 1,000 peso bill to the cashier to cover the total purchase in the amount of 998 pesos. Choppy waited for his change for a minute or two, however, the cashier ignored him. Hence, Choppy asked the cashier of his change, and in return, the cashier handed back 1 peso coin and a piece of candy. 5 days thereafter, Choppy filed a complaint before the Department of Trade and Industry, DTI, and alleged a number of violations committed by Wing Wing Grocery pursuant to Republic Act 10909 or the No Shortchanging Act. Will the complaint prosper? Explain. 1%. Suggested answer, yes, the complaint will prosper. As provided by RA 10909 Section 4 paragraphs A and B thereof, that it shall be unlawful for any business establishment to shortchange a customer, even if such change is only of a small amount, and it shall also be unlawful for any business establishment which sells goods or provides services to give the change in any form other than the present currency. In the given case, the cashier shortchanged Choppy by 1 peso and also the cashier give candy which is not the present currency as changed to Choppy. Thus, the said shortchange, even the same as a small amount, and the giving of candy as change constituted violation to Republic Act 10909 Section 4 paragraphs A and B. B. Determine the violation or violations committed by Wing Wing Grocery under Republic Act 10909, if any. 1%. Suggested answer. The violations committed by Wing Wing Grocery under Republic Act 10909 are the following. Republic Act 10909 Section 4 paragraphs A, which provides that it shall be unlawful for any business establishment to shortchange a customer, even if such change is only of a small amount. In the given case, the cashier of Wing Wing give only 1 peso change, which in effect shortchange of 1 peso. B. Republic Act 10909 Section 4 paragraphs B gives that it shall also be unlawful for any business establishment which sells goods or provides services to give the change in any form other than the present currency. Giving candy which is not a currency of the Philippines violates this provision. 2. One rainy afternoon, Diane was driving along J.C. Aquino Street, Butuan City. On the way, Diane pulled over upon the instruction of the traffic officer stationed nearby. While moving her car, Diane picked up her phone and answered the call from the MJS hospital where her ailing mother was confined for weeks. Thereafter, the traffic officer informed Diane of her traffic rules violation, as well as her violation of the provisions of Republic Act 10913 or the Anti-Distracted Driving Act. Is Diane liable under Republic Act 10913? Explain. 1%. Suggested answer. No, Diane is not liable under Republic Act 10913. Although Republic Act 10913 penalized any driver who is driving a vehicle in motion or temporarily stopped when the said driver is using her phone to make or received calls. But the said law also provides exception to the acts which penalized as distracted driving, one of which is when the driver pulled over her vehicle to the side of the road in compliance with a traffic regulation. In the case above, although Diane made a call while driving, but the same happened when she is required by a traffic officer to station nearby. The said act of Diane is an exemption provided for by Republic Act 10913. Therefore, the act of Diane is an exemption to the penalized acts. Hence she is not liable of the said law. B. Define distracted driving. 1%. Suggested answer. Distracted driving refers to the performance by a motorist of any of the following acts in a motor vehicle in motion or temporarily stopped at a red light, whether diplomatic, public or private, which are hereby declared unlawful. A. using a mobile communications device to write, send, or read a text-based communication or to make or receive calls, and other similar acts, and b. using an electronic entertainment or computing device to play games, watch movies, surf the internet, compose messages, read e-books, perform calculations, and other similar acts. Republic Act 10913, Section 4. 3. Apple went to ABC Laboratories Incorporated, a private health facility in Butuan City, duly organized in accordance with law, for RT-PCR exam or COVID-19 test. During the exam, Apple was assisted by Brandon, who recalled that days ago Apple slapped his, Brendan, younger brother in an unsolicited fight. To get even, Brandon tampered the RT-PCR result of Apple and made it appear that the latter tested positive for COVID-19. The laboratory manager saw what Brandon did, however, no action was taken. Explain whether Brandon is liable under the Republic Act 11332 or the Mandatory Reporting of Notifiable Diseases and Health Events Act. 1%. Suggested answer. Yes, Brandon is liable under Republic Act 11332 or the Mandatory Reporting of Notifiable Diseases and Health Events Act. One of the prohibited acts punishable by Republic Act 11332 is the tampering of records or intentionally providing misinformation, Section 9, Par. B. The law encompasses all physicians, allied medical personnel, professional societies, hospitals, clinics, health facilities, laboratories whether the same are public or private. Since Brando tampered the RT-PCR result of Apple and made it appear that the latter tested positive for COVID-19, Brando is liable under Section 9, Paragraph B of Republic Act 11332. B. Explain whether ABC Laboratories Incorporated is liable under Republic Act 11332. 1%. Suggested answer. It is submitted that ABC Laboratories is also liable. Under the doctrine of apparent authority, acts and contracts of the agent, as are within the apparent scope of the authority conferred on him, although no actual authority to do such acts or to make such contracts has been conferred, bind the principal. Benate vs. Philippine Countryside Rural Bank, 2010. Also, the employer is liable to the faults and negligence of its employee under Art. 2180 of the new Civil Code unless the employer can prove that they exercise the diligence of the good father of the family in hiring and supervision of Brando. Brando as employee of ABC Laboratories has an apparent authority over his acts or omissions. And that ABC Laboratories is presumed liable to the act of Brando unless the former prove that it exercised the diligence of the good father of the family in hiring and supervision of Brando. Thus, under the doctrine of apparent authority and the doctrine of vicarious liability of the employer due to the fault and negligence of their employee, ABC Laboratories is presumed liable to the acts of Brando. 4. Allan was on his way to visit his parents in the town of Esperanza, Agustin del Sur province. On the way, Alex stopped at a convenience store just a few blocks away from his parents' house to buy some goodies. Police officer Ben approached Allan and informed the latter to put on his face mask so as not to violate relevant local laws enforced within the town and the province in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly Ordinance No. 6792-021. Allan reasoned that, being a non-resident of Esperanza, he cannot be held liable for any violation of any local laws. Is Allan correct? Resolve. 2%. Suggested answer. The contention of Allan does not hold water. City or municipal ordinance is the law of the place in which the same is enforceable or executable. Ordinance No. 6792-021, an ordinance enacted by Esperanza, Agustin del Sur for the protection of its constituents against the spread of the COVID-19 virus. The said ordinance is enforceable within the territorial jurisdiction of Esperanza. Since said ordinance also penal in nature, any person violating the said ordinance in the territorial jurisdiction of Esperanza is liable for any acts or omissions punishable in the said ordinance irrespective whether the offender is resident or non-resident of Esperanza. Hence, Allan is liable for his omission to wear a mask, which is punishable by Ordinance No. 6792-021 even Allan is not a resident of the said municipality. 5. This company, a non-profit private institution, published in a local newspaper in Butuan City a job vacancy for office manager which specified the age limit requirement between 25-30 years old only. Wendy, a 35-year-old single mom, submitted her application. However, the HR officer of this company said that Wendy was not qualified due to her age, and that they were looking for someone younger who can do the job more efficiently. Wendy insisted that she should not be denied of such opportunity on account of her age. Is Wendy correct? Resolve. 2%. Suggested answer. Yes, Wendy's argument is impressed with merit. Republic Act 10911 or the Anti-Age Discrimination in Employment Act provides that it shall be unlawful for an employer to decline any employment application because of the individual's age, Section 5, Paragraph A, Number 3. Thus it is the policy of the state to prohibit arbitrary age limitations in employment. The age of Wendy is no longer a requirement as basis of whether or not an employee is going to be hired by the company,